Welcome everyone. My name is William Bell, Executive Vice President of Products at PhoenixNAP. And I am joined today by Brian Tasker, Mike Rockwell from Megaport, and Cody Hill from Google. And we're gonna show you some pretty cool stuff, right? So we're gonna talk about hybrid cloud. Go over to the agenda. We're gonna talk about hybrid cloud, why people are doing it, what it means to organizations, some of the challenges that you face in trying to adopt a multi-cloud or hybrid cloud approach. We're gonna go into the networking construct of that, like connecting two bits of infrastructure together. Megaport's gonna be driving that on the technical side as well as the presentation. And then we're going to switch over to Google at the end, and we are going to show you all things Anthos, talk about what Anthos is, and then do a live demo that I just kicked off. We'll do a live demo and show you a working example of a workload that is spread across both Google Cloud Platform and PhoenixNAP Bare Metal Cloud. I do want to make an announcement. At the end of this, we're going to give away a DJI drone. So part of the gift that keeps on giving, you got great lunch and you get a chance to win a pretty cool drone. I tried to convince them to give it to me instead, but they said no, we have to give it away to a customer. So we'll go from there. So the state of hybrid cloud today, it is, I think the adoption is high, probably not in the way that marketers would love to tell you about, right? This idea, to some extent, what we're gonna demo today, where you're just gonna have some of your workload in one place, some of your workload in another place, and everything's gonna work in harmony together, and they're gonna talk to each other and be inter-networked with each other. The reality of it today is still very much like independent deployments, right? You're doing some application here, you're doing some application here, and to some extent that is hybrid cloud or multi-cloud, right? And what we're gonna talk about though is this trend of actually placing applications and workloads in the right infrastructure fit, and then using high quality, high speed networking to make those two, to make that one application work across two locations. And so if you look at this right here, you have this workload distribution that's fairly split at this point, right? A lot of adoption of public cloud, a lot of adoption of private cloud that's still around from 6-7 years ago. And then still, and I'm happy about this, still a lot of people buying colo, right? And so it is, but ultimately they're using this to create a hybrid kind of workload profile. So it isn't without challenge, right? There is challenges to deploying these workloads in a hybrid fashion. And a lot of it revolves around the lack of access to high quality and skilled staff, right? That know how to manage these applications and deploy them in different places and inter-network them together. And to some extent, some of the things we're gonna talk about, not only what Google's doing with Anthos, what Megaport's doing with their service, network as a service, is trying to make all this easier so that you don't have to have experts everywhere inside your organization. Of course, people are worried about security. They really, really don't want to compromise their security posture by adopting hybrid cloud or multi-cloud topologies. But there are things that you have to think about and take into account as you're looking at migrating or moving applications into divergent workload destinations. The act of migrating that data or replicating that data can be challenging at times. Certainly, there's a lack of common APIs that make automation challenging, but there are people working on it every day, right? There are infrastructure as code folks like Terraform and Ansible that are working on trying to make it easier so that you can deploy this infrastructure in a repeatable fashion in different public clouds and different infrastructure deployments. And then ultimately you end up in a place where you have all these great capabilities, but sometimes it can be difficult to see all of your assets, to maintain cost control. And I think, again, there's a lot of people working on that problem, and the solutions are presenting themselves every single day to help make that better. I wanted to touch base just a little bit. If you are a PhoenixNAP customer or you've heard of who we are, you obviously know we have a data center here. But our Bare Metal Cloud platform launched about a year ago. It is, I think, I was talking to guy at a trade show, DevOps Days, kind of local trade show. And he said to me, this changes the paradigm, my thinking about how infrastructure has to be acquired and deployed, right? And so they really, this was a DoD contractor, they're pretty anti-public cloud and just putting things in a specific public cloud. But he'd never had a exposure to this idea of pure infrastructure as a service and being able to get server storage networking on demand that is dedicated and private to you, right? All the things that you would buy and put in a data center now can be provisioned on demand. And I think that is kind of where we're going as a company. PhoenixNAP is moving towards this idea of building data centers on demand. Whether we own the four walls of the infrastructure it sits in or not, right? The outcome for you, the customer, is still pretty amazing. It's automated data center deployment. Tons of use cases. It is infrastructure, so the use cases are somewhat unlimited, right? In terms of why you would want this. I think one of the places to kind of add, it would say that if you're just doing development, you're just banging around and playing with stuff, sometimes bare metal cloud can be overkill, right? It's much easier to do that in a VPS provider, DigitalOcean, somebody like that, Linode. But when you're trying to bring that application to production ready state, and you're looking at the future of your application and what you hope is immense scale, my take on the situation is that there are great production use cases for public cloud because there are platform services there that we cannot replicate, that are amazing. They do amazing things. But if you try to implement a traditional application or even just a vanilla microservices application in a public cloud on just their compute and you're just using their compute infrastructure, probably spending a lot more money than you need to, right? And I think that that's emerging as some of these kind of core use cases for bare metal cloud, and certainly that large scale, high compute, anything that's like intense computational work, certainly is better in BMC. And I'm going to take a moment. I apologize to kind of transition here, and we're going to shift this over to the Megaport team, and they're going to talk about all great things Megaport.
I am Brian Tasker with Megaport. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for joining us, everyone. We're going to tell you a little bit about Megaport just to kind of set the stage, give everyone just an understanding. I could tell you that cloud adoption is high and hybrid cloud is popular, but I thought I'd spell it out with some numbers on a slide because then it's real. So really, I guess what this slide says is, cloud adoption is very high. I've been at Megaport for 6 years, and every year I continue to see more enterprise customers connecting to the cloud, and that's what that means. Am I leveraging AWS? Am I leveraging Azure? We're going to tell you a little bit about how Megaport does the connectivity to the cloud. You can use the internet to get there, which is fine for some people. When it becomes important enough that you want to make it a private connection to these clouds, that's when you look at a provider like a Megaport to help make that happen. We offer these direct connects, and express routes are the buzzwords. Just to give you an idea of kind of what we do, the quick 1-minute overview is Megaport builds into data centers like PNAP. I'm in over 700 globally, where we basically take down colo infrastructure, just like some of you do. We put our networking gear there. We provision carrier connectivity back to other data centers in our network, as well as cross connect directly to these cloud providers, including like PNAP bare metal cloud. And then we have a cool software layer that sits on top of all that allows you to automate the connectivity to turn up this connection. So really, at the end of the day, what happens is we're going to talk about all this cool cloud connectivity and hybrid cloud, but you do need to find a way to connect to it. So Megaport said there's probably a better way than the traditional carrier out there that's going to take 2, 3, 4 months to do it. And we say, why can't we turn these up in 60 seconds? So that's what we do. From a self-service portal, you can turn up these connections within minutes. It's very cool. Customers like it, and they're really happy once they have it. So in those 700 sites or so, we have other slides that are going to show you, but we have over 200 different connections to these cloud providers globally. Those are called the on-ramps. That's how you get in. Those are the hyperscalers we see there, public cloud providers. We have hundreds of other service providers like RingCentral, like Twilio, that sit on our fabric as well, so you can also connect to them. And then we have another thing we're going to talk about, a new service. It's called Megaport Virtual Edge, MVE, because it needs an acronym to be official, so it does. 3 letters, of course. So if you have an SD-WAN deployed with Viptela, Aruba, Fortinet, Versa, VMware, which is VeloCloud, you can actually make Megaport a node on your SD-WAN and connect to all these cool things we're talking about today. That's a fairly new for us. It's very exciting, and it kind of opens up really the addressable audience to leverage Megaport very quickly. Here's an example of another acronym, Network as a Service. This is an example of a customer that has a couple locations in the US, East Coast, West Coast. It looks like that may be the UK, perhaps Ireland, and all the way down here to Sydney, Australia. So you can turn all this up in minutes. We could do a demo of deploying this globally within just a few minutes, which is all very cool. And then just to end real quick, the 4 different things. It's kind of cool not to be up here and say, hey, let's talk about digital transformation. Here's 300 things we could do. We can do 4 things really well. So connecting to the cloud, the private connections to the cloud, upper left, automated, works very, very well. Lower left, cloud and multi-cloud. So if you're between 2 different clouds, you can actually use Megaport. We have a product called our MCR that you can actually go cloud to cloud networking at layer 2. That's really good, especially if you don't have a presence in a region. We do these for customers that have project-based workloads, as well as they just simplify their deployments. The data center to data center point to points. Now, this is kind of interesting because if you think about it, I'm in these 700 sites, but all I'm really doing is really a series of data center point to points. Some of these data centers have cloud, some don't. So if you're in multiple data centers like this one, and also let's just say Digital Realty in Ashburn, you can do an on-demand point-to-point between the 2, even if it's a backup to your like MPLS or SD-WAN. On demand, it turns up, you can turn the connection up and down, you can do replications in the middle of the night. It's very popular. So anyways, MVE is where you can add Megaport as a node on your SD-WAN fabric and then do all the cool stuff we're talking about. Aggregate all your branch sites into regional MVEs and then go out to the cloud that way. So with that, I think I will pass it over to my trusted colleague here.
Yeah, I'll take the microphone. Somehow we always travel together, and now we're tethered together with a microphone, which is even better. But I'm Mike Rockwell. I manage our solution architect team here at Megaport on the direct side of the business. So we have solution architects in Europe, North America, and APAC, and all of them sit on my squad. But one of the things that I really want to touch on and highlight is our cloud on-ramps. So we have over 243 cloud on-ramps that contain all the hyperscalers that you see below. Why that's important? Because you want to connect to the edge of the cloud provider network to access the region where your resources sit that's closest to your data center. So with the Megaport and the amount of on-ramps that we have, we're going to be able to give you the optimal location to connect from your physical presence up into the cloud provider region that you're trying to access. GCP or Google also has an on-ramp right here in this data center, which is outstanding. There aren't a lot of data center operators where the edge is actually deployed. So for PhoenixNAP to have Google here in this data center, it's really a feather in the cap. So if we go to the next slide, talk a little bit more about the MVE or the Megaport Virtual Edge. So we launched this product a year ago with Cisco on their Viptela platform. And essentially it's what they coin as their software-defined cloud interconnect service or solution. And essentially what that is, it's kind of modernizing the underlying infrastructure with SD-WAN, where you're taking a short hop over the internet, you connect to a hosted node on the Megaport network, and then you're building private connectivity to the cloud providers, to data center operators. You can also connect MVEs together to build out global WAN infrastructure. So essentially now you can go in, you can turn up a virtual POP anywhere across the globe on that Megaport fabric. You can deploy an SD-WAN appliance or an SD-WAN license on top of the Megaport Virtual Edge. You can host that with us. We can integrate that with Cisco, Fortinet, VMware, Versa, or Aruba Silver Peak. So if you're working with any of those SD-WAN providers, this really gives you a way to integrate and automate your underlying network infrastructure through our platform. So just short hops across the internet again, get on private infrastructure, use an SLA-backed backbone to get to the cloud, get back into your data centers, or also just build out network WAN connectivity across your backbone. This is just a little bit of a highlight of the demo that Cody's going to do here with GCP. But if you have resources that sit in the cloud, you have resources that sit with PhoenixNAP in their bare metal cloud, and maybe you also have data center infrastructure here at PhoenixNAP or in another data center across the globe, you have to be able to stitch or tie all those things together. So one of the things that's great about the MCR, which is here in the middle, this is a virtual routing appliance. It's a pre-packaged service where we provide the license. We also provide an easy-to-use interface. So for those of you who aren't network engineers, maybe you're more comfortable working in the cloud, essentially you can go in, you can deploy an MCR anywhere across the globe. It's a virtual router. We provide all the licenses and everything for it. You can also build then off of that MCR private connectivity to the cloud provider edge. You can build it back into PhoenixNAP in their bare metal cloud. You can also build that back into the data center. One of the things that's also great about it is with some of the cloud providers, including Google, it's fully automated. So if I turn up a partner interconnect, which is the private connectivity model to GCP, it's going to turn up the layer 2 off the MCR. It's also going to configure the BGP peering relationship. So essentially, it's an automated function. Same thing with going back into PhoenixNAP. We'll provide the layer 2 connectivity. You're going to peer directly within the bare metal cloud. So automated resource makes it very easy to stitch all this together and can be done literally in minutes. And that's something as we hand it off to Cody, Didi's going to show you in a little bit more detail.
All right, just a show of hands to make sure everybody's awake. Who knows what Kubernetes is? Okay, over half the room. That's great. So quick elevator pitch, if you don't know what Kubernetes is, the way Google deploys applications globally, like Gmail, and it's almost never down, right, was built on a system called Borg. And what they did is say, hey, this is great, we should give this to the world. So they open sourced it, made it API driven, and now you can run containers and scale them extremely well globally. So that's my elevator pitch on Kubernetes, right? It's great. And Anthos is our delivery layer on top of Kubernetes. Okay, so it really helps with app modernization. And so I work at Google Cloud for mainly the Anthos partnerships team. And what Anthos does is not only allows you to deploy Kubernetes anywhere, it also gives you a set of services to help operationalize Kubernetes, right? So we have a service mesh that allows you to secure your endpoints end to end. We have a config management tool, which allows you to deploy workloads globally across all of your Kubernetes clusters using Git. We have policy management for security. We have an operational suite to allow you to monitor all of your clusters in one location. And then Anthos itself also has Anthos clusters. So Anthos clusters can be deployed anywhere at this point, right? So the first production Kubernetes deployment was GKE on top of Google Cloud. That's the one that made it out there, everybody knows and loves. But we've then launched Anthos, which allows you to deploy Kubernetes on top of vSphere, bare metal. You could use some of our competitors, such as Red Hat OpenShift, and attach those clusters to Google Cloud. And then you could also deploy clusters on AWS and Azure. So this allows you to bring all of your Kubernetes clusters, no matter where they're deployed or what the vendor is, and bring them into the Anthos suite to use all of the bells and whistles that Anthos provides, such as that service mesh and config management and so on. Right, so that's what Anthos is. And now we get into the fun stuff, is what did we do with Anthos to kind of show what's cool, right? So this is another variation of the previous diagram that you guys saw at the Megaport guys show. And essentially what we've done here is we've spun up a Google Cloud region in Vegas, right? Hello, Las Vegas, let's go. All right, and we put GKE on top of that. And we've deployed a microservices application on that. We then, on the fly, deployed the Megaport MCR that they were talking about and connected those together, and then connected that into PNAP Bare Metal Cloud. In the PNAP Bare Metal Cloud, we've deployed 6 physical bare metal Linux servers and used Anthos to turn those into another GKE cluster. Right? So now we have GKE cluster in PNAP, GKE cluster in Vegas, interconnected via Megaport, and we're sub 10 milliseconds, right? So it works really well. So what application did we deploy on this? Well, we decided to go all out and do a full-blown microservices application, right? So this is a shopping cart, or a full storefront. So I'll show you the storefront in a minute in the live demo. But we have all of these different services, such as if you need to do payment processing, that's a microservice. Sending an email for, hey, we got your order, it's on the way. Doing shipping calculations with FedEx and UPS, right? These are all different microservices that need to be built and stitched together. And then you need to store that state somewhere. So that's what we're storing inside of Anthos on PNAP. We're storing the backend database on PNAP, right? So anybody that's had a large monolith database, Oracle, MS SQL, whatever, those things are really hard to lift and shift to the cloud. And you probably have a lot of applications using those. So you can leave that in place, use Megaport to interconnect that with your public cloud, and then start breaking off microservices and moving to the cloud slowly. So that's kind of what we're showing here in this. So before we jump into the live demo, we wanted to take a section for questions on anything you've seen before. Any questions in the room? No questions. You guys did a great job. Great job. We explained everything thoroughly. Okay, great. If you have questions, we'll take some more questions after the demo. So demo time. Let's go. I gotta do some Hail Marys to the demo gods. So on the right, it's still running. The deployment is still running. We're deploying this environment. But on the left, it's just like any good cooking show, we have one that we're going to pull out of the oven that's already working, right? So this is what success looks like when you do a deployment. It kind of gives you all of the information that of the environment that you deployed. So we have this website that we've deployed, which is boutique.codyhill.org. So if I go here and punch that into a web browser, I have an online boutique. It's great, it's lovely. I can grab a pair of sunglasses, maybe 3 pair, add those to my cart. I could do payment processing, ship it to Google's headquarters, and place my order. Order is complete, okay? Couple things to note. This domain, boutique.codyhill.org, was generated on the fly. I created that domain as part of all of this automation. We created the domain. Notice it's HTTPS, valid certificate. We used what's called Cert Manager in order to automatically generate an SSL certificate for free on the fly to secure this domain, right? So we have security built in, we have our custom domain built in, life is good. And we have our application that's working, and anybody that has a laptop open or a phone could go to boutique.codyhill.org and access this, buy yourself a tank top. It's great. It won't ship, it won't charge your credit card, but it's a fun shopping experience. You can share it with your loved ones so they can get the shopping experience without spending the money. So that's cool, right? So the deployment here, just kind of want to show off some of the infrastructure. This is in bare metal cloud. These are the physical servers that are running behind the scenes doing this. I chose the S2 C1 medium system. It's a physical server is about like 26 cents an hour or something. So great price for a physical machine. It's pretty powerful, 6 cores, I think 64 gigs of RAM or 32, something like that. So these are those systems here. And then the live one that we kicked off right when this started, if I type in live here, you can see we now have the PNAP live system. So we have 6 of those as well. This is the one that's not quite finished yet. It's still baking, but you can see the servers are powered on and running. What we're doing right now, if I look at the terminal, is we're deploying the Anthos cluster itself. So that's what takes about 20 minutes or so to actually do that Anthos cluster deployment. What you see over in Megaport, if I do a refresh here and type in boutique, there it is. So you can see that MCR that we spun up. We have an MCR that's a 1 gig. So supports 1 gig. We've only allocated 50 megabits across that router to 150 megabit connection to Google, 150 megabit connection to PNAP to interconnect that, right? So this all happened automatically on the fly, worked really well, that's great. If we jump over here to Google Cloud, you can see here's that GKE boutique. We should see a couple other Kubernetes clusters pop in here if I do a refresh. Yeah, so we have our GKE live cluster. That's the one that William spun up as we got going. And then you can see we also have these other 2 external Kubernetes clusters that I haven't logged into yet. You can log into the cluster and then you can manage those from a centralized location. So this is really the power of Anthos, is these clusters pop into the Google Cloud platform. You can then see all of your workloads, manage all of your systems, all from one place, no matter where your Kubernetes clusters are deployed, right? So this is what Anthos brings to the table, along with service mesh and all of those beautiful things, okay? How many people in here are DevOps, write code, deploy code, anything? All right, so if you guys want to try this, anybody can try this, right? We have a complete GitHub repo of all of this code for you to kick the tires and play with, right? We're going to talk a little bit later, but there's free trials for all of this, right? So you can sign up for BMC, for Megaport, for Google Cloud, do your free trial, clone this Git repository. So GC partners / PhoenixNAP, Megaport, Anthos. If you guys want to take your phones out and take a picture so you have that for later, you guys can play with that. But all of the code that shows how to do everything is here with a halfway decent README and the diagram there, right? So that kind of shows that off. And we are now complete with the live, right? So this is what success looks like. It works fantastic. I totally didn't just edit the code 5 minutes before we started the presentation. Yes, I did. And we should be able to grab this URL here for live.codyhill.org. And another Hail Mary to the demo gods. And see if we have a second website. Oh no, it's all my fault. Live.codyhill.org is not alive yet. That's no fun. I should be able to see the workloads here if I do a kubectl get pods. So all of the pods are up and running. And kubectl get service. So you can see I have a web service here of, it's pointing here. And I should have a kubectl get ingress. So this is how you get into a system. So it says it's set up live.codyhill.org. Let me go ahead and try that one more time. Did I spell it wrong? No. So that's what happens when the demo gods are unhappy with you. I'll have to figure out what's going on as to why that one didn't spin up. Everything looks happy. These are all of the different pods and things that are inside of that Kubernetes cluster that we just spun up. And they have been alive for about 20 some odd minutes. So 3 minutes ago, we got external DNS spun up. 2 minutes ago, we have Redis that just came to life. And it normally takes 3 to 4 minutes for the service to get created, a DNS record to get propagated, and then the certificate to get issued. So I might just be going too quick. Yeah, it's always DNS. It's never DNS, it's always DNS. And I'm a glutton for punishment. Oh, look at that. Oh, God. I love it when it comes together. I love it. Okay, so in about 30 minutes, since we started this, we got a full deployment with the front end of this running in the public cloud, your backend database running on physical infrastructure in a bare metal cloud, interconnected from Las Vegas to Phoenix with Megaport, and I'm gonna buy my wife a watch to celebrate. So let's go ahead and add the watch to cart, place that order, and we win. We win.
Close it up.
Yep, William's gonna go ahead and close it up for you, and then we'll open it up for questions.
What Cody just showed, I think, is the best example of on-demand hybrid cloud creation that I have seen. right? And certainly it's a demo, but it is possible. And again, customers are starting to realize, hey, why am I running this giant NoSQL database in a Amazon EC2 VM? It's costing me $3,000 a month, and I'm running it 24/7. I'm not using any of these services that the public cloud's great for, right? And my performance isn't even that good because it's just a VM on a box with a bunch of other VMs, and performance can kind of ebb and flow depending on the demand of that physical server, underlying physical server at Amazon. And starting to realize that there are different ways. And if you're looking for infrastructure services, there are different providers. It's not just a PNAP thing, right? There's a lot of other people out there doing it, but there's more than just the big three public clouds. And so back to what Cody was talking about, we're working together to make it clean. It will feel a little bit unclean, but like everybody's got a promotion, right? We're gonna sponsor some credits for Bare Metal Cloud. The Megaport team is waiving a port fee for a month. And then Anthos has a free trial that's baked into GCP GKE. So if you go in there, you can activate that free trial. It's available to everyone. And you can do this yourself. Use the repo and that we publish, and you can actually execute this demo, learn about how these applications are deployed and built. So I think we're trying to make it as easy as possible. If you reach out to sales@PhoenixNAP.com, PNAP is gonna quarterback that whole process, right? So we're gonna quarterback getting your Bare Metal Cloud credits, working with Megaport, making sure everything gets provisioned correctly. Yeah, and if you want to do this, I suggest you take a photo because we have a very beautiful promo code from the Megaport team that is going to be necessary to use when you spin it up. Either way, we'll work through it with you if you want to give it a shot. And everybody filled out their cards. Sure, of course I will. And this applies if you don't want to do Anthos or you don't want to do Bare Metal Cloud, right? You're just a colo customer today and you want to use Megaport to go to AWS. That's okay. We'll still do the promotion, right? This is kind of a Megaport specific promotion, but I hope that you saw the power of what can be done, right? With all these capabilities, all these technologies. Truly exciting time to be in infrastructure operations.
How good is that self-certificate deployed?
So how does it get deployed?
How good is it? The expiration date on that, is that?
So there's an application called Cert Manager that's baked into the Kubernetes cluster. Okay, so the actual cert is deployed by Let's Encrypt, and I believe there's a 90-day expiration on it, but every 30 some odd days, that service automatically checks, hey, is this domain still alive? Do you still own it? Let me renew the cert automatically every 30 days. So you don't have to worry about renewing certs anymore.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
And it's free.
That's a big point right there with that system, right?
Yeah.
It's amazing. And then there's a service baked into Kubernetes called external DNS. So you could say, hey, I want to create this ingress endpoint, live.codyhill.org in the live demo, and it created the DNS record for me.
And I think it supports
It's all integrated.
Google, Amazon, Microsoft,
Almost
Cloudflare,
GoDaddy.
but yeah.
It's very robust external DNS support.
Yeah.
And then the Cert Manager also has a lot of different ways to validate that you own that domain to give you a valid cert. So it's not just a public website has to be available. You can actually issue private certs with Cert Manager and do validation via API keys and things. So it's pretty robust.
Yeah, super cool. I would say that it takes a little getting used to Cert Manager. Like if you're not used to the whole certificate request process and how all that happens, it can be a little bit cumbersome the first time you try it out. But once you get the flow down, you know how to issue and sign certificates, it becomes a lot easier to do. Other questions?
Sure.
I signed up for that, and now I'm thinking that this is the time to install this application.
You can, for sure.
I'm not programming that. What language is it?
So all of the automation's written in Terraform, right? So HashiCorp is the company behind Terraform. It's all open source, and it's just an orchestration tool. So Terraform allows you to orchestrate infrastructure on almost every cloud. So PhoenixNAP has built a Terraform provider to spin up their servers and their networks and all of that. Megaport has built a Terraform provider to spin up their routers and their connections and all of that. And Google Cloud has built a Terraform provider for all of that. So it's one orchestration tool that you can wire together to spin up all of your stuff. So there's that, little bit of bash scripting, and some Kubernetes manifests. And so all of the code's live on there. So I'd be happy to share it with you and yeah, go ahead and check it out. And then we didn't get it added, but PhoenixNAP also has a community Slack channel. Is that correct?
We do, yeah. There's a community Slack channel, so you can go sign up phoenixnap.slack.com, and then the product teams are in there. Some of our core BMC developers are in there. Support channels in there. So if you're already a customer, that applies for everything. We're working on making it more visible and easier. I know our support team's running some pilots right now on some like full support through Slack, but we're there to answer questions right now.
So I'm on their Slack, so if you guys need to communicate and whatnot, we could do it through the PhoenixNAP community Slack.
All right, we got a winner. Moshe Apellis, is that you? Who is it?
Oh, the guy on the phone? Hang on. Must be present to win.
Must be present to win. Well, he is the winner. He is the winner. But I want to thank everybody for coming out. I know this is getting back into the swing. Lunch and Learns or something we didn't get to do for 2 years. Very sad about that. But hopefully we're going to try to pick it up into some regular cadence, maybe one a quarter or something like that, as we, maybe not during the summer. Phoenix in the summer is kind of weird, but as we get into next year, we're going to try to get back and get people through the doors. We are going to take anybody that wants to go on a tour through the building. So if you want to actually go on a quick tour, we're going to do that after this as well. Okay? All right. Thank you guys very much.